Peonydust, Orchard Star meowed excitedly as he saw the maroonish reddish she cat approaching. "Good morning, Orchard Star," she whispered solemnly. "Yeah, good morning, everyone," Goose Shade meowed as well, and Orchard Star hummed happily. He seemed to be more excited than usual to see everyone. "Good morning, Goose Shade," she whispered and smiled at the black and gray Tom, who glanced at her for a second and then looked back at Hollypaw. When the apprentice meowed, "Good morning, Goose. Are you ready to train for today?" "You're right. It is time for our first training session, Hollypaw," Goose Shade meowed, and she looked at Orchard Star, who spoke. "Today is a new day. I'm excited to hear back from Maple Spot and you, Goose Shade. They will do great. The apprentices will." Orchard Star meowed. Peonydust yawned, a tired wave approaching her as she whispered, "Hey, guys. Do you know where Sharppelt is? I haven't seen her, and she said she wanted to go check out the carrying place not too long ago. Did they keep you up too?" Orchard Star meowed. "Why so tired? And no, I haven't seen Sharppelt," Orchard Star whispered to her, and Peonydust looked away. "Just nightmares," she mumbled, her thoughts carrying back to Rosemist getting trampled by something large in her dreams. Blood was flowing down her stomach and head, and Peonydust couldn't think of it any more as she shuddered. Orchard Star looked at her sadly and whispered, "I'm sorry to hear you had nightmares. I wish you better sleep tonight, okay?" "Okay," Peonydust meowed dryly. She gave him one last sympathetic look. "I'm gonna go hunting," Peonydust whispered, as Orchard Star dipped his head in condolences. "Do what you wish, Peonydust. You are the deputy. Just remember, Rosemist is watching from StarClan." He meowed, and then gave one last good luck as she raced away. When she made out onto ShadowClan land, she let the sun warm her pelt. She felt happy, knowing that her clan would be safe. She raced and quickly found the Thunder Path, her paws clicking against the smooth stone that littered ShadowClan land. She quietly found a pond and sat there, watching as the ripples washed over her paws. A little bit of guilt seeped into her. Rosemist always loved the water. That's how she got her suffix, mist. On misty days in New Leaf, she used to run around and try to lick the mist in the air. She let out a sigh, looking at the sky. Was she out there? She raced along the edge and quietly leaped across, ducking down quickly. When she found Maple Spot and Charredpaw, she crouched quietly and listened in on their conversation. "Our territory runs along the Thunder Path," Maple Spot whispered, and flicked an ear, but didn't seem to notice her. Charredpaw looked wide-eyed and good. It makes a borderline around ThunderClan land and keeps those pests out. RiverClan, too. Maple Spot meowed and raced away. She turned back and sat next to the river again, wondering where Goose Shade and Hollypaw were. Probably training, she thought. Maybe along the thicker parts of ShadowClan territory. She twitched her tail and studied the water as it slowly moved by like blood. She let out a sniffle. "Only if Rosemist was here," Peonydust whispered. She could have gotten Chardpaw instead of Maple Spot. More tears foamed up along her eyes, and she blinked them away quickly. "Listen to what Orchard Star said," she whispered. "You are a loyal warrior, and Rose Mist would be proud. Rose Mist is watching us anyway." She blinked away a couple more tears and got up and began trotting again, her paws leading her along until she found Orchard Star. She raced up next to him. "Orchard Star," she whispered, but he didn't seem to slow down. Until he leaped across the river, the dry patch. Where was he go? She noticed Gooshade and Hollypaw and raced away, seeing that Orchard Star must be testing them or crouching them. She stalked and listened in. "Okay." Hollypaw grinned, and she couldn't catch anything else of the conversation when she grabbed a stick, making sure she didn't step on it to alert them. They must not know I'm spying on them. Gooshade will think I'm weird, as well as Hollypaw. She raced back to camp, still wondering where Sharppelt was. Well, there's Orchard Star for a second, she thought, and wondered if Sharppelt was in the medicine den. She poked her head in when she noticed Orchard Star. "Orchard Star," she whispered. "Sorry I ran away from you," Orchard Star chuckled. "Oh. I got bored, like I said, and I went to collect herbs," Orchard Star whispered. "Has Sharppelt returned yet?" Orchard Star meowed. Peonydust looked away as he meowed. "I'm getting worried." "Me too," she thought, but didn't speak her worries out loud. No. She looked away, and more tears began to crawl up along her eyes. The beast must have gotten her. Peonydust looked up again, thinking about Rose Mist. Just like how they got her. It got her. Her claws seethed, and it seemed to scratch the moss nest below her. She stopped quickly, trying not to ruin the perfectly good moss bed. Why? Ugh, dang it! Orchard Star snarled, and she touched her tail to his shoulder briefly. Sorry, Orchard Star meowed. "It's okay," she whispered. They looked at one another for a second, and then she stepped back. "She's with Rose Mist now," Peonydust meowed. "We don't have a medicine cat, and no one seems to have escaped from it," Peonydust meowed. "I just wish they'll all come back," he meowed. Rose Mist and Sharppelt weren't the only ones to get lost. There were others, like a elder named Cricket Pelt, and another, and a kit who got lost many, many moons ago in the first disappearance, named Shallow Kit. It was now night, and Peonydust stepped up onto the rock. After Orchard Star had went to get herbs again, he had never returned. "Cats gather!" Peonydust seemed to choke on her words as Maple Spot approached, first to the meeting. "Our leader was... Orchard Star has disappeared!" Peonydust wailed, and she heard Maple Spot try and let out a gasp. "We have found the beast's sense, and I am ready for war!" She yowled again, and Gooshade looked away sadly. "What?" Maple Spot let out a breathless meow. You heard me, Maple. She yowled, and Gooseshade flinched. You're a liar, Maplespot snarled. He couldn't die. He had lives left. I know he did. And he was such a strong warrior, and yes. Peonydust meowed solemnly. I thought he couldn't be able to die either. We just had a conversation not too long ago, just a couple of hours ago, and he said he was going to go collect herbs, and he must have gotten lost in the carrion place, and maybe he got... Where is the beast? Maplespot said coldly as she glared at her. It seems like everyone's dying, Gooseshade put in his input, and she looked at Maplespot. The beast has also took Charredpaw and Hollypaw. She meowed quietly. Gooseshade has told me that after they came back from their training sessions, they were gone. And the beast is at the carrion. We'll make that beast pay. Let's go. Peonydust meowed. She wasn't thinking, and she just raced out of camp. The grass slicked up on her underside as she raced past, crushing flowers. The beast has taken too much from her. Her tail twitched, and she felt pressure grow down on her stomach. As she crouched, the grass hiding her scent, as the only thing she could smell was trash. And carrion. Get down, she hissed through the grasses. Gooseshade raced in, but then crouched. Pressure relieved in her head as she snarled. This beast will get what it deserves, she whispered, crouching underneath the large overgrown plants. After a couple more seconds of silence and crouching, she had caught a scent. Every cat in the clearing to help fight with her would be an easy target. Her breath seemed to echo among the clearing, and she thought her heartbeat could be heard. This was finally it. She could finally know what took her sister, her clanmates, her friend, Orchard Star. She crouched through daisies and poked her head in the odd cement building. But she couldn't smell anything. Where was it? She thought, and unalertedly quickened her pace, racing around and shoving her head behind boxes. Where is it? She thought, almost like she was screaming inside of her head. Where is it? She breathlessly meowed. Her breath seemed to come quick. I need to kill this thing, she thought. There's always an outside, I suppose, Gooseshade meowed. And keep your voice down. Gooseshade's words were laced with not anger or rage, but security. This smell is fresh, Maplespot meowed. I don't see it anywhere, Peonydust hissed back, uncontrolling her anger. She walked silently, then crouched again, as the grass was up to her nose, and she could notice cobwebs on boxes. She walked quietly and wondered where it was. This could be the last day of her life, but all she cared, as long as she could go back to Rosemist, it would be okay. But hopefully Gooseshade would join her. She didn't assign a deputy before she left. She passed back red stones and leaped over a huge black bag. Whence she couldn't see it. Where was this thing? Or was her clan just imagining all these deaths? Air came out of her throat. There! She meowed quietly, and it definitely saw her. She hushed, her claws sliding out of her paws. So much anger built inside of her body as she saw it. Study it. It was ginormous and black, with golden eyes, and blood still stained in his fur that made his paws crimson. This is for my sister, my leader, my friends, and most importantly, my clan. She snarled and leaped out, missing the box but quickly recovering as she leaped on top of it, slashing it as blood pooled out from his throat, more blood than what was before. She noticed long scars along his eyes. Rosemist probably did that to you, she snarled, knowing it definitely must have happened. Blood was still fresh on his paws, and she knew that must have been from Orchid Star. She looked down at his depths of her eyes, almost stunned that they had found it after all this time. She looked at Gouchade, who froze, and then he bolted up beside Peonydust. Maple Spot seemed to be quiet. For once, she was quiet, but for once she wasn't talking to sing his ear off. Her breath quickened, and she was stunned as well from Gouchade's revelation. They had finally found the thing that has been killing all the clans for moons. She began choking. Blood seemed to pool from her throat at the attacks of the beast. Oh, this is going to be so exciting. I love a good play fight. She leaped back off the beast. Is that the last of you? He chuckled. You should know that you killed all of them. You killed my sister, and you killed the leader of Shadow Clan. Her words weren't laced with rage, but sadness and disappointment. Why hadn't they done this earlier, when there were so many more cats? Her claws slid out, as blood dripped from her throat. She choked as it stained her already reddish fur. She saw as Maple Spot leaped on top of it and slashed, and she looked at Gouchade, who was also preparing for a leap on the thing. What even are you? Peonydust snarled, and the beast let out a You don't even know what I am, and you think you can take me down. Peonydust rolled her eyes, licking her lips, as blood dripped from her muzzle. Tears fell down her face, and she leaped, another rage pooling up inside of her. You killed my sister, and my leader, and my friends. She slashed more rapidly and bit at its back, ripping out flesh. You are a monster, she snarled, and it let out a grunt as the attacks came on top of him. You will never see the light of day again. Have fun in your last day of life, Peonydust said tartly, as Mapleshot joined her attacks. And she looked at Maplespot, realizing that she was never the enemy the entire time. It was the beast that really drove them apart. Maplespot was just jealous at Orchard Star's attention that he gave everyone else instead of her. She understood now why Maplespot thought she'd be deputy. Her mentor was Orchard Star, and she looked away, flashing as she felt more guilt. Now she understood why Maplespot was so angry all the time. She was neglected by her mentor, or at least he didn't try to be like that, but Orchard Star always talked to her at gatherings, talked to her after the meetings, and talked to her and welcomed her in the mornings. She never got that from her mentor. If Peonydust's mentor was still alive and did that to her, she would feel incredibly enraged as well. Is this how you're wanting to play? The beast suddenly broke through her thoughts and snapped her back to reality. You played with my sister? Is that how you played? She snarled and bit down on his neck again. You never asked her what to play, so we're playing my way. She snarled, slashed his neck, letting the blood soak into her claws. She knew the blood of him would stay in her claws forever. She couldn't wait to look at it as every day passed. Revenge was a thing in Peonydust's family. She knew Rose Mist would never want for her to get revenge or to kill this thing, no matter how much it destroyed her life. Rose Mist was always so kind and welcoming and understanding that she knew that some things or no things were morally evil. But Peonydust didn't care. It was either her seeing Rose Mist at her leader ceremony or her seeing Rose Mist in StarClan. She was happy with either. But she wanted the first one. She looked at Maple Spot and Gooseshade, nodding as they all leaped on top of it, biting down on its neck as everything. We did it! Peonydust let out a loud, victorious call as Gooseshade nodded and repeated her words. We did it. A purr escaped his throat, and Maple Spot nodded in agreement. We should go back, she meowed as she sniffled a little bit of blood that dripped from her nose. Peonydust agreed. Oh, let's head back. I need to pick a deputy anyway. She chuckled. Anyway, I think I should lay down for all these wounds get to me and I join Rose Mist. Yeah, we should, Maple Spot whispered. But after a couple more seconds, all the she-cat did was glare down onto the wretched creature. I never did know what it was, she whispered. I could never tell, but I'm sure that Rose Mist will tell me when I get my 9 lives. It had been a couple more seconds, more like days, and Peonydust finally felt comfortable saying telling her clanmates what was up. All cats gather for a clan meeting underneath Shadow Rock. She didn't say the same words Orchestar had said so many times before. She said the words that she knew was right. New words that would grace every cat of Shadow Clan. Oh, not Thunder Clan. I don't think Thunder Clan would make a return. Peonydust looked down at the 2 cats who remained, and she looked back as she felt a presence. After the victorious win, I would like to appoint a new deputy. Don't feel too bad, she heard Gooseshade whisper to Maple Spot after she had gotten a huge gash along her body. I also got this scar. He let out a chuckle, and Peonydust looked at him with rounded eyes. I need a new deputy. For a new era, Peonydust meowed, and focused her gaze on Gooseshade. Maple Spot. Oh gosh, Maple Spot. She thought. She looked at Gooseshade. Maple Spot, you've shown much care for this clan we call home, and I'd like to forgive you, and I wish for you to be my deputy. She turned her gaze from Gooseshade to Maple Spot, and the she-cat let out a gasp. I'm sorry, I didn't think I heard you correctly. She meowed sarcastically, a mocking tone. That's what she said not too long ago when she got Chardpaw. She sighed at the thought of the dead apprentice. Not Chardpaw. She was always known as Mouse. That's what she should be remembered as. They hadn't done a funeral for any of the dead cats yet, since they didn't have her bodies, but she made praise to them every night she slept. What I did hear you, actually, though. Maplespot meowed. I just don't think I heard what you usually say to me. I thought you'd give me some snappy remark and make Gooseshade the deputy. Not a joke, Peonydust meowed. I'm making you my deputy. Now accept it before things get awkward. Peonydust chuckled. Fine, fine. Maplespot let out a stifled laugh. I do accept. For Chardpaw's sake, I was always so mean to them. But Peonydust's gaze focused past Maplespot's. She had gotten her 9 lives ceremony. And now she saw Sharppelt. She let out a gasp of shock as the she-cat faded. As Maplespot walked up onto Shadow Rock and sat down in the place she sat for only a couple of moons. You better accept, Gooseshade whispered, and Maplespot was already on the rock. Her wounds were still bloody, since Sharppelt was dead and couldn't heal them, but she had managed to heal them so they wouldn't get infected. Clan dismissed, she whispered as she walked to Gooseshade. Gooseshade, can I talk to you? She whispered, looking as Maplespot sat around on the rock. In private, she snickered. She raced up onto the rock, past it, and then farther into ShadowClan land. A big, full moon rose in the sky as she looked at the handsome Tong. So, after everything, we have been through a lot together, and I was wondering if... Her words came out in trembles. I was wondering if you would... Well, what I'm trying to say is, I like you. She stopped, and Gooseshade let out a breathless gasp. You don't have to say anything if you don't like me, and hopefully this won't ruin our friendship, but... More time passed as a chilly green leaf breeze whisked past her ears. When Tom finally meowed, I like you too, Peonydust. You've always looked out for ShadowClan, and even when Maplespot was being so aggressive, you always try to be nice to her. For the most part, he chuckled, and she let her tears foam in her eyes for one last time. One last time. She would never be sad again. She had a mate. Well, what she assumed was her mate. A clan, a kind-ish deputy, and the beast was gone. So, are you my mate now? Peonydust meowed, hoping that Maplespot didn't like Gooseshade too, since that would ruin their friendship they had just grown. Yes, I'll... He stuttered, more breathless meows. I'll be your mate, he chuckled, as she approached him and nuzzled him on the cheek briefly. Well, you had a good run. We had a good run, as friends, of course, but now we have a whole new era, like I said at the meeting. A new era for ThunderClan. She put a paw over her mouth. And it had been now many seasons. Peonydust laid on the moss bed and looked down at the tiny meowling kitten. She had just had Gooseshade and hers kittens. It was only one, which she was almost glad about, since she only had to protect one. I knew you'd be the only one to have kittens, Maplespot meowed. You always told me it would be me, but in reality, it was always you. I told you, I'm always right. Maplespot let out a breathless chuckle as Gooseshade looked down at the tiny, meowling, rosy kitten with gray spots that echoed her fur. Oh, Peonydust, I'm so happy, he whispered, and she looked at him and nuzzled him again for a second. I think I have a name for her," she whispered at the two cats, and she could even see Sharpelt fading in the distance. "I think a good name for her could be a Rose Kit," she meowed as everything faded to white.